Hey everyone, it is me. I am here for the week 8 coaches chat, so I'll just give everybody a couple of seconds to get online if you're planning on watching this live. We're going to touch briefly on how to read nutrition labels, and then we're going to kind of talk some mindset stuff. But it is just me today because I'm at my house. But as you know, I have no problem talking to myself into a camera. Okay. We got one person online. Great. I guess we can go ahead and get started. So this week is week 8. We are beginning the last month of the challenge. That's pretty incredible. It's kind of crazy how this time here flies. But hopefully all of you are feeling good and confident and starting to feel a little bit of that autopilot mindset and ritual, I guess you could say, when it comes to your habits. And that's what we want. That's the goal. So this last month is really try to just kind of settle in to just checking those things off day by day and just get in a rhythm. Hopefully you've all started to get in some kind of rhythm. So we started the week off talking about one of the first lessons was a week on the cheap. So a lot of people think that eating healthy is super duper expensive. And yes, the food that you do buy in the grocery store is, more expensive than say prepackaged foods. But if you really think back to it and compare, like say budget wise, if you were a big going out to eat a lot, but then you started cooking more at home, how does that translate to saving money? And you're also saving your health. So, in a sense, like, yeah, it could be a bigger grocery bill, but it's probably a less eating out bill. But that lesson, that article is really, it just puts in perspective how you could eat cheap for a week, doing some of the CK recipes. And it's an interesting one. I think that came on Monday or Sunday. I can't remember. It's one of the first two. But then the next one I do believe is how to read nutrition labels. Now, we don't really focus on calorie counting or even reading that many labels because the goal of CK and this challenge is to get you to retrain your taste buds and learn to love whole foods. So you don't necessarily have to read nutrition labels. But of course, we're all going to have those gray area foods mixed in with our normal meals and stuff. So, and it's totally fine to eat packaged foods. It's just you want to be a little bit more educated on what your food actually is. And so that's what that lesson's all about. It just kind of takes you through all the nutrition, like breaks down the nutrition facts, even the ingredients label, and how to read those. And I have some examples that I was going to go through really fast. So I did let Bishop buy this cereal with marshmallows, and guess who eats all the marshmallows? Me. But I was gonna just go briefly through how to read the nutrition label and why it's important. So we were gonna compare something like, Dave's Killer Bread, which is associated with being, a more healthy version of something. But then of course, like cereal is a known not healthy version of a carb source. But then we also have just a sack of potatoes, where you don't necessarily have to read a nutrition label, and it's a healthy carb source. So just for example, so if you did have something that you could compare, I would highly suggest looking at this. But just going through the nutrition label quickly, first you want to look at is the serving size. Now serving sizes can be very, very deceiving, and within that lesson we kind of gave you a breakdown of grams to ounces, so you could kind of get like a little visual of what that might look like. Because really, if somebody says, oh, I'm gonna eat 37 grams of this, you're like, I don't even know what that looks like. So it's based off of like volume and weight and all that stuff. And they usually put serving sizes in grams. So we put a little conversion list for you to use, or to kind of give you a little idea of what it is. But so the serving size, that is what's listing the calories, all the macros that are listed on a nutrition label. It's pertaining to that one serving size. And so it's really important for you to understand the visual of what that serving size is, because you could essentially, like, for example, a cereal, serving size is about 1 cup. Now, get a measuring spoon out and scoop out 1 cup. Do you typically eat that? No, you probably eat double. But most people aren't thinking that way whenever they're reading that label. So the first thing listed macronutrients-wise is fat. Now, main thing you want to stay away from is obviously trans fat. But they do usually have all the fats listed, and we've gone over in detail about polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, which are good fats. Main thing you want to steer clear from is trans fats. But then the next couple ones, like got your cholesterol and stuff, but then the total carbohydrates. Now this one is where it can get a little tricky, where they count fiber and sugars within that total count. So when you look at the total carbohydrates, this one says 1 cup is 32 grams, and you have 1 gram of fiber, and then the sugars are 12 total grams of sugars, and you're like, where the heck is the other carbohydrates coming from? But underneath there, so fiber is good, obviously. You can deduct 1 gram of carbohydrates away from your total to get your net carb count. So that's why everybody's like, more fiber, please. And I guess it could it takes down your net carb count for that food. So that's why high fiber is good in a lot of foods, is because it kind of helps you out that way. And where the fiber is the little thing that attaches to carbohydrates and doesn't allow your body to absorb it. So that's where the whole net carb thing comes through. But what I mainly like people to look at is the total sugars. Now, when you're reading a label, say you have, maybe it's a cereal, or it's something that has fruit inside of it or something like that, like a more natural sugar, that sugar total counts all of it. It's counting, the natural occurring sugars and also the add-in sugars. But when you come down to the ingredients list, you can tell what has more naturally occurring sugars and what is more added sugars just by the ingredients list. So this one has 12 total sugars within the one thing. Well, I'm going to go down here and try to investigate where those sugars are coming from. And that's where the ingredients list really comes into play. So if you look at an ingredients list, it's right underneath the nutrition label. You'll see the listing. It goes in hierarchy of the amount or volume in that food. So whatever is listed first is the one that food is made up mostly of. And then it goes in order by volume. So for example, this Elf cereal, the number 1 ingredient is whole grain corn, but then the second ingredient is sugar. And so if you are grabbing something like this, and it doesn't have a whole food or whole foods listed in like the first 4 ingredients, you may want to put it back. That means that it is a little bit more processed and more added, probably most likely a little bit more added sugar, like not naturally occurring sugar. And then from there it goes cornmeal, brown sugar syrup, which is another sugar, maple syrup, another sugar, modified cornstarch, corn syrup, another sugar, dextrose, another sugar. So in that lesson we kind of go through how many names of sugar there are, and I think we listed out 30 of them, but if it ends in ose, like fructose or anything, dextrose, that's usually a sugar. But that's how companies can hide their added sugars, because you, like the normal person, doesn't know the names of sugars, so they can actually split up that total amount or ingredients list and make it seem like sugars are lower down on the list, when essentially there is 5 different sugars, types of sugar added to create that total. But in the ingredients list, it doesn't look that way. So that's why you have to be a little wary of products that you do buy. If you can pronounce the ingredients, so like for example, the Dave's Killer Bread, the first ingredient is organic whole wheat. Then we've got water, organic good seed grain and seed mix. That's like flax seeds, sunflower seeds, brown sesame seeds, black sesame seeds, whole flax, steel cut oats. Then after all of that, there's organic cane sugar. And then there's fiber, blah, blah, blah. So the cane sugar looks like that's the only source of sugar in this ingredient. All the rest sound just like plants that you could eat. So that's one of the reasons why you want to try to get the better quality food. So more closer to nature, the better off you are. And within that that lesson, we go through all the macros, like we go more into the sugar, like I said before, to kind of help you identify which products that have nutrition facts are better to buy. And so we hope that lesson arms you with the good information. Like I said, that was just like a brief overview of it, but definitely something worth noting, because we're all going to eat packaged foods. But in the ingredients list is probably the one thing that I will check first before I even go check the macros, because if it has a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't line up with my goals of eating more whole foods, then it's probably in my best interest to put it up. And then if you don't even want to read nutrition labels and you want to eat a smart carb or whatever it is, just go for the plants like I do. Because if you have marshmallows in the house, you will eat them. All right, so after that all information, the only other thing I wanted to kind of hit on, because we are getting into this last month of the challenge, you have a lesson coming up, and it's kind of like a mindset thing, a little pep talk about how there's no right or wrong way to do these things, like how to live, I guess, and to eat. It's all about choices and whether they line up with what you want out of life. So I get asked quite a bit, how do you do this like year round? Like, how do you eat this way all the time? And in reality, it's not necessarily that I have to make myself do it. It's just I understand what the aftermath is going to be and the results that I will get. Not meaning like weight loss results, I mean quality of life results that I will get based off of the choices that I make in the short term. Okay, so I'm going for that whole I'm going to say no to the short-term gratification majority of the time in order to have that long-term, results or long-term return. Because I was running today. I usually go on a little jog or a walk or something on Wednesdays, and it's just kind of like me listening to music, or I listen to a podcast or something like that, and it usually gives me some good ideas, or I just start reflecting on things. And one of the things is that like I was feeling pretty tired, like pretty beat down or whatever, just like physically, mentally been kind of exhausted too, and it would be easy to say, oh, I'm not going to go on my walk, or oh, I'm not going to eat my habits or whatever. I feel like going through the drive-thru or whatever it is. But really, when it comes down to it, I know that in that moment that I'm not making these choices just for right now. I'm making these choices because later in life, I don't want it to be as hard. I've been thinking about aging a lot lately too. And so like my body doesn't recover as fast as it used to. And there's, more worries and, stuff like that. Things just pop up all the time and you just don't know where life is kind of going to take you and what you're going to have to deal with, moving forward. And I don't want my health to be one of those things that I have to worry about. So for me, when it comes down to, whether or not I make these choices during the day or not, or I keep at it, keep trying to get after it, doing these habits, it's not really, I'm having to force myself to do it because I know that in the end it's going to pay off and I'm going to be able to handle other things a lot better. Whether you have a rough patch, a rough month, a rough year, hello 2020, if you can have some control over your health, you're going to be able to manage and weather storms a lot better. I mean, we talk about you figuring out why you're doing this. And I guess that's what I'm kind of trying to get at is you have to understand your why. And a lot of people's whys can be vanity driven, in the beginning. But after you've been doing it a while, and we hope through this process and through this, this program that you have been learning that, while you may have expected to punish yourself in order to get to the point where you are or you're going to be, hopefully you have learned that it's not about punishing, but it's about retraining your mindset and retraining your brain to understand that this process of, becoming a person that drinks more water, eats more plants, eats protein, feeds their body properly in order to thrive, it's a never-ending process. Yes, it evolves, and it's about daily choices that you have to make. But the process, the real goal is to live in the process, not the end point, not the finish line, not the goal weight. Your goal, your ultimate goal for anyone, no matter who they are, is to have self-control over their health. Don't rely on other people to help you, in a way when it comes to your health, because you're the one that knows your body, you're the one that knows your lifestyle, likes, dislikes, and all the things. So that's why I say there's no wrong way to do this, because it all depends on what you want out of it. And we hope that you're starting to understand that learning to live in the process rather than rushing to the end of some goal is not where it's at, because you'll eventually get to your goal, and then guess what? You just make a new one. And that's the beauty of it, that you just keep building and building and building. Or you reach a point in life where, hey, I've got this control over my health where it's not a burden, it's not something that I have to stress about, it's just what I do, it's how I live. And then like what I said earlier, you're able to manage other things that pop up. That is the ultimate goal for Clean Kitchen. I don't want anyone that runs through Clean Kitchen, that goes through our program, to come out of it thinking they don't have a handle on what they need to do for a lifetime. So, we're all about trying to create awareness, and awareness is the first step in change. You can't have self-control if you're not aware of things that you're doing, or aware of what helps you, move forward. And so as you go into this last month, we really want you to kind of, dig in. Maybe you're there. Maybe you are, rocking and rolling with your habits and you're just on cruise control. And that is fantastic. But maybe you've had a few bumps and bruises along the way, but you're still keeping with it. Know that is perfectly fine. And that is a part of everyone's process. You will have bumps and bruises even well past the 12 weeks. But learning these awareness tools and these mindset changes and in this perspective of that it's the process that I'm living in and I want to live in that process forever. There's no end to it. It just kind of gets more ingrained in me where it's not as stressful. Like, that's the goal that we're after. You know, you become these things where it's just what you do. And so if you're still struggling with, you know, getting on autopilot, that's totally fine. You have a whole month with your coach. And in the Clean Kitchen Facebook page, you know, we've definitely got the holidays coming up. And so that's going to be a struggle bus for a lot of people. And we'll have some more talks about that. But just know that you are not alone if you have had hit little potholes here and there along the journey. Keep at it. I promise, it will pay off for the rest of your life. And if anything, it changes your mindset over what you think you have to do in order to live a quality life. So that's what we're all about. And I'll end it there. But we will be back next week for week 9. And if you have any questions, just let us know. All right. Bye-bye, guys.